So thank you guys so much for being here. So today we're talking about being a poderosa and what that actually means. And I think a lot of times as Latinas, we're told to be smaller and not be as crazy and vibrant as we are. And so what does it mean, Laura, to you to be a poderosa?
To be a poderosa, it just means to be fearless, but also be graceful. And then just another key word for me is to be fruitful. And by fruitful, I mean planting seeds and seeing that whatever you like, your values, you're planting those into other people and you see that grow and sprout within others. So just kind of transcending that to another generation.
Absolutely. And Margie, you totally just embody what poderosa is to a lot of people. So, who was that poderosa to you who inspired you to really not only be creative, but still just be an awesome, vibrant woman who is just fabulous?
Oh my gosh, thank you. Well, you know what? I think it was a combination between a man and a woman. So this is my parents for sure. They have a lot to do. I have their DNA, and I could honestly say that the biggest, most beautiful character of my mother was that she had a quiet spirit. But that didn't mean that she was weak. That meant that she was super strong, that she had this wisdom that came from God knows where, because she knew where to find us, by the way. When we were running around, we were 10 brothers and sisters. So it was definitely my mother. My mother, I saw her serve my father, but in a very beautiful way. I saw her make food, serve all of us, have this humble spirit, but she was strong. She had 10 of us. So I would say it was my mother. And then my father had, his DNA has generals from Mexico and top generals. So our lineage is leadership. And I saw my father be a super strong leader. Even though he didn't have a lot of education, he had a lot of hunger to succeed. You can't teach that. I mean, you can't teach that. He had that, and he really showed me how to be strong and a leader. And from day one said, "You are a leader." I believed it. And my mother, quiet spirit. That doesn't mean being quiet or being soft spoken. Doesn't mean that you're not strong.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's really how my mom was too. Very quiet, very conservative, and I'm kind of the crazy one. But nonetheless, I think I have her spirit of just being strong and having tenacity to do what I want to do. So, speaking of tenacity, you've had a business for 20 years, you became an entrepreneur, and you've gone through so many ups and downs as an entrepreneur. You also have two daughters, and they're bloggers in their own right, so they make money on their own as well. How did you pass that on to your daughters, do you think? Because they're strong women, and now you have granddaughters as well.
That's so funny. But, when you're parenting, you're just going. It's very hard to feel like, oh, I'm going to be this superwoman and this role model. It was no, that wasn't the case. It was just like, no, get your shoes on. No, they're backwards. No, let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Whatever it took. So I think even in those moments, you're teaching your child to figure things out, to restructure things, to make things happen. And I think that's how I pass that on. Now, stepping back, I have a granddaughter. I'm way more patient. I love her. And so because of that, I have the opportunity to say, hey, you know what? You're going to be so strong. You know what? You're so smart. You know what? This, and then she feels like, she feels really empowered. And I think when I was young, having kids, two girls, I was just the role model. I'm now the verbal grandmother pouring into that generation. And I love it. I love it because I see how I have transformed and how that poderosa, that power, goes from one generation to another. And I'm super grateful for that.
Yeah, because Camille's a great mom
She is.
to Zara. That's awesome. And so, Laura, tell me about what you think and why you think it's important to continue that bicultural just to be bicultural, really. Because, I don't know where you're from, but for me, I grew up on the border, so did Margie. We grew up in El Paso. So it was really easy for us to live that bicultural life. Moving to Dallas, though, that changed a little bit. I really missed my hot salsa. you know so why do you think it's important to really embrace our culture in a place that might not always embrace our culture?
Definitely. So I am from the border too. I'm from Laredo.
Oh,
And I
okay.
actually grew up in Nuevo Laredo. So, and I just married my husband's wife. So for me, all of my family is still in Laredo. So for me, it's important, like when we have children, how do I connect that culture with them? Because it's so easy to just kind of tend to forget a little bit of your background and your foundation. So the most important thing for me is I know that the language has to be spoken. That's just something that I value so much, and it's beautiful for me. I need to make sure that they are speaking Spanish and English. And then the other piece is, like you said, like, hey, we're going to eat salsa. For Christmas, we don't just need to we need to go have tamales and pozole and just kind of having our food. And I think food's a big part of our culture, so we need to make sure, like, we bring that to the table and we introduce them to that. But then also just honoring our values and hard work and just showing them where our family has come from, because it hasn't always been this easy. Just right now, I have a CPG job, and when people ask me, like, how many Latinas are in this organization, maybe 2 out of like 2,000. And so for me, it's one of those parts where the next generation and my child needs to know, like, hey, you can always have that seat there. And just sharing those values, the traditions, and being bicultural has also helped me just kind of get to that piece.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, talk a little bit about that, because, I've been in the same position as well. When I came to Dallas, I was the only reporter on that specific news station. And so for me, I took that role very seriously, to be a Latina that other Latinas can look up to. What's that like? What's that been like for you to sometimes be the only Latina or one of very few in an organization? And how do you navigate that?
So for me, I early on, just even working for this company, I volunteered to be part of this women's organization. And I did it with the intention of not only was I going to elevate other women and be, all of a sudden I became the leader of this part. I'm leading this team. And it gives me the opportunity to, now that I have a seat at the table, how can I bring more Latinas into the table around me? Because I shouldn't be the only person here. So once you're up there, give someone else that opportunity. And navigating through that, I've embraced it. I don't shy back from being a Latina, and I say my name is Laura. And I guess you could say Laura sometimes if you're just going to butcher it.
That's good.
But I say it's Laura. And I love just saying, like, this is who I am, and I'm not going to shy, like, this is the person that you're going to get. And it becomes just part of my everyday, but you get opportunities. Like, no one in the company early on knew how to translate something in Spanish for our Hispanic culture. Like, who's going to do it? Well, I have nothing to do with the marketing piece, but I was the one that would just edit everything out for them. And so I would take on those roles because it showed the opportunity to have someone else come in and have someone that can sit there and actually do that for them. So it just continued on.
Yeah. And Margie, you kind of had a similar story in that, because you worked in marketing and you saw that people were marketing to the Hispanic community, but it wasn't quite right. Talk a little bit about, why you wanted to take that on and make sure that the marketing to the Hispanic community was actually done in a way that we would understand and that we would actually like and resonate with.
Yeah, absolutely. When I came to Dallas, I realized that I was feeling like a void, a glaring void within the marketing community, because we weren't being represented quite right. I mean, we're not the ones that, the short skirts and, just, that wasn't me. That wasn't my family. That, we weren't representing, they didn't represent us correctly. So, I just felt like this is the time for me to really make sure that our voice is really being heard and our image is being elevated, because there's not where we come from. We like guacamole, but don't make us guacamole. We're mainstream too right now.
Exactly.
So, and I'm very excited because I came to Dallas and I saw that Dallas was booming with Latinos, and I felt like I'm in the right place at the right time, and I have the power to make decisions based on what the television station was projecting at that time. So I love that I had that opportunity, that I saw. First of all, that opportunity of changing the voice, and I'm really excited. And that was my whole goal. Trust me, it was just to represent us on television the way that we really are, and not a telenovela like
Right,
type of
exactly.
woman. Yes.
Exactly. And so, talk a little bit about just, Hey Chica and why that resonated with you, and if you had wanted something like this maybe when you were growing up. I know for me, it was something that, I've always wanted to elevate other Latinas. And so, it was really important for us to, show who we are in reality, that we are educated. Another girl shared a story about how somebody told her, well, you don't look Mexican. And I've definitely gotten that many times. And it's like, well, what does that look
Are
like?
you sure?
You know?
Me too. I'm like,
The nopal is right there, but we are Mexicans, right? We love it.
But so why was Hey Chica something that you wanted to be a part of?
You know what? Because I related to Hey Chica. I see you and I see all my friends. I see you, I see all my daughters. I see, myself and Michelle Bobadilla. I mean, we see each other like we grew up together. It's just like, oh my gosh, let's hold hands, let's hug, let's huddle. This is who we are. Don't we are mainstream. Let's move forward that way. So that's why it resonated, and it was just Veronica has said it so many times, and I agree. It's legacy too. I have daughters, I have granddaughters. I see other kids. I was a Sunday school teacher for missionettes, which is the equivalent for Girl Scouts in the Christian church, and I was a leader there for 7 years, and I loved it because it was like, oh my gosh, in the inner city community, I have this influence, and to lift them up and to show them that they could do it, that meant everything to me. So that's why Hey Chica is like super important to me, and just the fact that I could give back with my resources and my skills and whatever I could do to demonstrate that you, little girl, could be just like me, like her, like you.
Yeah, absolutely. What about for you, Laura?
yeah, so I'll give you a story. So this last time, there was one of my coworkers that I knew was Hispanic, and I had an extra ticket to invite somebody. And so I just asked him, I was like, hey, do you have a daughter that would like to go with me? Never. And he was like, yes, absolutely. And I was like explaining to him what Hey Chica was. I was like, I love it. It's a community. We really talk and we're authentic. And it's just like such a fun day for everyone. And he's like, this is perfect for her because she's always been told, like, you don't really look Mexican, what are you? And she's never really found who she truly is. And she's looking and seeking for that group of people. Yeah. And so for me, I was like, okay, put her on the list. We're taking her here because she needs to hear this. It's okay. This is a community. This is someone where we can be safe and be proud of who we are. And yes, we're all different in certain ways and we have different backgrounds, but we're still that one community that helps each other.
Exactly. We all have that story of growing up with our abuelitas or, whatever that is. And so we have a similar story to share. And so thank you guys so much for sharing yours.
Thank you.